The Bureau of Meteorology yesterday announced that we are now at El Niño alert. Let's get more on what that's going to mean for us from senior forecaster Dean Narramore at the Bureau. Morning, Dean. I think most of us have been anticipating this move. What does it actually mean for the months ahead?
Yeah, look, that's right. We've gone into an El Niño alert. So we're basically gone from a 50% chance of an El Niño developing in the coming months to a 70% chance of one developing. Now, the reason before of that is because we've seen those sea surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean have got very close to or reached those El Niño thresholds. But the reason why we haven't called it just yet is because the atmosphere hasn't really locked into that El Niño-like pattern. So really, to get that pattern, we need both the sea surface temperatures and the atmospheric weather conditions to kind of match, and that'll then set us off into the El Niño conditions. But if one does develop in the coming months, generally that means a warmer and drier period for much of eastern and southeastern Australia.
So at this point, the outlooks will suggest, when that's likely to happen. I know it's in the coming months, but when are you tipping that we are likely to reach those El Niño thresholds in the atmosphere?
Yeah, look, it's always the question, isn't it? When exactly will we do that? So we've just started to see that the weather patterns kind of start to show those signs of the El Niño-like conditions, but we need to see that sustain for at least a number of weeks and at least well into a month or so. I think once we get to that, which may be towards later in June, probably into the July, August timeframe, we might finally reach those thresholds to become an El Niño. But even if one does form and we do go into El Niño-like patterns as well, doesn't mean the rain's going to completely stop. It just means we're going to see generally over a longer period, drier and warmer conditions. Yeah,
indeed. It's soaking here. We're still officially, I think, in the first week of winter, and the southeast is definitely getting a decent drop despite the drier than average forecast. In the months ahead, once El Niño forms, if it does indeed, does it look like it's going to be a strong one? Will it carry right through summer?
Yeah, no, this time it's a bit too early to say at this stage. Well, the waters are quite warm off the South American coast. I think we've seen anomalies up to 4 degrees above average off Peru. And if that does continue to increase and then the atmosphere really starts locking in with those sea surface temperatures as well, we'll have a better idea as we move into the middle and latter part of winter months of just how strong this El Niño might be, if it does form, as you mentioned.
Yeah, you've always got to keep that caveat in place, right? And we've had record ocean temperatures globally this year for a couple of months now. Look, as we move through into the coming months, people think about El Niño as droughts and massive bushfires, but we're coming off a really wet base. How do you think things are going to look later on in the season, especially in terms of bushfires?
Yeah, look, that's right. So things are still really wet, even though it hasn't rained for quite a bit. And we do have a big weather system, as you mentioned, moving through Victoria and New South Wales today with quite a bit of heavy rain and severe storms. But, the groundwater is still there. Our dams are still full. And it normally takes our big forests and those heavily vegetated areas quite a long time to dry out. So even if we do have a couple of drier months and warmer months at the end of the year, obviously those shrub fires and grass fires are probably going to become a concern as we move into the summer months. But generally our really big and devastating fires that we saw, particularly in 19 and 20, that normally takes a number of years of very hot, dry conditions. We know that 17, 18 and 19 were very dry in the lead up to that. So this summer, probably focusing more on the grass and shrub fires. And then if that dry pattern does continue into next year, it may be the following summer that we might start seeing those really big, devastating fires. But it's a long way away. A lot has to happen for that to happen anyway. And that's all wish casting there. But at the moment, 70% chance at this stage of El Niño forming as we move into the coming months.
Dean, I'll let you get back to the models. I know it's a big day for the Bureau generally as well in the southeast of the country. Thanks very much for your insights this morning.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Cheers.